this panel together. Basically, there is a document from IETF, which is 7084. This is describing the basic requirements for IPv6 customer edge routers. Originally, this document was developed as 6204 in 2011, and then it was updated in 2013. Since then, we have got a few changes. The first one, and the most obvious, is that we don't have any more IPv4 addresses. And that means you cannot keep deploying dual stack. That's the first thing. Then we have new transition mechanisms which were not included in those documents because they didn't exist. Like, for example, lightweight 4/6, MAP-T, MAP-E, and 464X-LAT. There are also new possible requirements in the home, like the technologies under the scope of HomeNet. And we also see that in many situations, most of the CPEs that are intended for just homes are also used in small offices or medium offices, right? There is new work which I am actually taking over in IETF, which has several documents. The one I mentioned in the last line is just one of them, trying to update the situation so new CEs or in the future new versions of firmware for CEs can take on these problems, right? So how we are going to organize the panel? Unfortunately, I have asked for 90 minutes, but we got only 1 hour. So I am going to ask every one of the participants to describe their actual product range in 4 or 5 minutes. I have integrated all the slides, so we just keep going. And then I have made 7 slides just with a few questions on what I call main topics. And the idea is to go through quickly, not big explanations, 1-2 minutes for each speaker on each topic, okay? I have asked this session to be recorded, so the idea is I will make some minutes, some document I will circulate between the participants, and we can probably make a presentation on this on the next B6 Ops meeting oops, something happened to the slides. So I will put some slides according to if the working group chairs of the next B6 Ops meeting in Singapore agree. In principle, they told me yes, they agree. Can you switch the slides back? One. Yeah. And then if we have extra time, I think we may have 10 minutes of questions from the rest of the people or your own comments, okay? So I am not going to introduce each of the speakers, just do it yourself, please. And you don't need to stand up if you don't want. We can handle the slides from here. You prefer. Right.
So, all right. Okay, Liz Hams. I'm from D-Link, and are we going to start directly, or?
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
Go to the next slide, the big green button, and you have your slides over there.
All right. All right, again, this Hams from D-Link, and today I would like to introduce you talking about the IPv6 program in our company. First, allow me to give you all a little bit of background story here. As 15 years passed, I was first went to TWNIC and Taiwan IPv6 program office since I was a college student, being a volunteering, serving the program office in Taiwan. And after 15 years, we see here that sort of, I believe we didn't did a good job, as the IPv6 adoption, we all see the number. All right, so about D-Link, we got our first IPv6 ready logo in 2003, and later on we have the golden one in 2006. And we start shipping the very first IPv6 certified router in the retail market in 2008. And we put the IPv6 ready logo on the gift box to promote the IPv6. I believe that was the first CE vendor for consumer IPv6 kind of NAT box and the routers ever putting the IPv6 ready logo onto it. And we participate the IPv6 Day and the IPv6 launch as the initiative vendor. And since then we start keep sitting there and watching the change of the adoptions instead of making a lot of progress in our IPv6 program internally. So what do we have? Basically, we support everything RFC 7084. However, in addition to that, we put a lot of effort and time focusing on our management interface. So we have our TR69 certified, and we click the IPv6 option when we certify our TR69 implementation. We have a new GUI design that enable user to actually have their IPv6 enabled without installation, without additional setup. And we support like LLMNR, the local multicast name resolution for Windows users, and the Bonjour for Mac users, so they can always use D-Link router.local to get into the router web management interface instead of 192.168.0.1 kind of IP address. So we did a lot beyond the RFC 7084, and of course for security, we support the simple security addressed in 1692. And next on, what's next? So as I just mentioned in previously that for the past 5 years since the IPv6 launch, we saw the IPv6 adoption rate from 1% to 20% today. While I don't see it a good number, as especially someone has been getting old when I was doing all the IPv6 stuff in college. So what's next? As we know, IETF, we introduced HomeNet in the working group. While as a vendor, I'm start thinking that are we really ready for the HomeNet, or we are going to have the other transitioning protocols first? While sort of the problem like Jordi would like to us to have the other like more advanced or new transition protocols that for us to be ready to sunset the IPv4 or to make IPv4 as more like a service. However, sort of from my experience, I believe the problem of the IPv6 and our problem today to the adoption rate is actually because we sort of introduced just too many transition protocols instead of just make it one and simple so everybody goes on that, no choice, just go on IPv6. Yeah, so that's my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Wenxian Peng. You can call me Wenxian, and I come from ZSL, ZYXEL. and we come from Taiwan. And now I will introduce our C router, what we support IPv6 features. And this is agenda. Okay. We support native IPv6 and we support IPv4. So we have an option about dual stack. So you could choose IPv4 and IPv6 native differently. And we support tunneling mechanism, include 6RD, 624, and 6N4. And Jordi mentioned that why we should support these IPv6 features. So I think IPv6 is a world trend because we have some customer, maybe ISPs, maybe customers, they have some needs for the C router logo. They ask us to pass the C router logo. And besides, one of our customers come from Canada. They have a truly needed for 6RD tunneling in their country. So they think 6RD is the main important features we need to support them. Okay, and how thorough do we support? First, the CD router testing. Okay, CD router is an testing equipment. We can choose some test plan, and each test plan includes so many test cases. CD router is an expert test equipment. So our Q&A department always uses a CD router to test our IPv6 features. And besides, the tunnel request and CD router logo all are from the customers. So we have to support the 6RD feature very thorough, and we have to pass the CD router logo. And we already, for pasting the CD router logo for more 3.5 years. And okay, this is my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for attending this panel session. I'm Masanobu Kawashima from NEC Platforms. I'm in charge of Asian country projects, especially IPv6 related projects. Then I have 20 years of experience in IPv6 related work. So I'm going to share our experience and our thought. Then let me briefly introduce our company activity for IPv6 deployment. Then this is our company vision and our products. I will skip this slide. So if you are interested in our products, please contact me after this session or opening reception. Then this slide shows our IPv6 router and activities. As you can see, we've been carrying out IPv6 initiatives since 2003. Since then, we've accumulated 15 years of experience and know-how related to IPv6. After 2009, we were focused on commercial IPv6 services with telecom carriers and ISPs as well. In recent years, we've provided IPv6 router with transition technologies such as MAPI, DS-Lite, etc. It's for virtual network enabler and ISPs. This slide shows IPv6 deployment on the global internet. The list on the right indicates the top 30 telecom carriers. As you can see, KDDI is third and the CTC is 13th. We are providing IPv6 router to them for their IPv6 deployment. So next topic. Why is it hard to deploy IPv6 router? You know? I'd like to explain the consideration for IPv6 C router development. From C router vendor point of view, we need to consider hardware and software development, and also testing and customer support. Then, ISP or telecom carriers need to consider provisioning and management method for C router. And finally, we also need to consider how to set up IPv6 C router by end user. So let's look into the issues when C router vendor need to consider to implement transition technologies. You may easily guess that the router needs additional memory. Then, as for software development, testing, and customer support, obviously, we need additional human resources. As you can see, most of them are cost issues. As for ISP or telecom carriers, we also need to consider C router provisioning and the management method, etc. The point is that they have their own system by their policy, and they choose different technologies, different configuration method, etc. Because they want to optimize their system and network. So C router vendors have to implement all functions if they want to connect all IPv6 service. As for end user, especially the majority of end users, they don't have enough knowledge for IPv6 configuration, even if IPv4 configuration, because they are not interested in technologies. That's why C router vendors should provide easy configuration or zero configuration. This is the last topic. What can we do for IPv6 C router deployment? As you may know, there is a chasm in technology adoption life cycle. The orange bar indicates a retail IPv6 C router with complicated setup. Some C router vendors are already providing such kind of routers. However, majority of end users don't want to use such kind of router because of the complexity. So it's only useful for innovators and some of early adopters. On the other hand, the green bar indicates managed IPv6 C router from ISPs. The target is a majority of end users. It works well because the end user don't need to care about the C router configuration. So then the brown bar indicates retail IPv6 C router with easy configuration. We should consider this implementation for IPv6 deployment. After that, we can cross the chasm, hopefully. Then let me explain in more detail how we can implement easy configuration for majority of end users. Actually, IPv6 C router needs to know uplink information, such as interface type, the presence or absence of transition technology, and the configuration method as well. As for the implementation, there is a similar mechanism, such as RFC 8026. However, it only focuses on DS write, MAP-P, MAP-T, write weight 4/6. And some ISPs cannot use DHCPv6 option for some reason. Finally, let me briefly summarize what I've talked about. As you already know, C router vendor should provide retail IPv6 C router with easy configuration or zero configuration. In order to implement easy configuration, we may be able to standardize simple method for IPv6 configuration. That's all for my presentation. Thank you so much for kind attention.
Okay, so next we are going to each batch of questions. It's not necessary that you respond to everything. The idea is to have among you all three global idea. So if you agree with what the previous speakers said, just keep going. Okay. First set of questions I am going to go through, and then you answer as you wish. So the first question is, I would like to know if you are typically providing CEs to just the retail market, so the people can buy even in the supermarket or the electronic shop or something like that, or if you do also OEM business or service providers or other options, okay? I want to get an idea about where your products typically are delivered or which markets if there are several. Then are those products bought in terms of hardware and firmware the same in different markets, or you have specific models for different markets? Same question for region countries. Sometimes it happens that one product is totally different in terms of hardware or firmware in different countries because regulations or something. I am not talking about the power adapter or something like that, but in terms of IPv6 features, obviously, okay? When something new becomes implemented, it's typically shared about different markets. For example, if an OEM asks for something, you typically also implement that for the retail, or it's a totally different firmware trunk, let's say, okay? And then if there is a new document coming from IETF, either updating RFC 7084 or a companion document for transitions, as it seems it's the B6 working group looking for finally, are you willing to implement that? Because you know that most of these documents are not really standards, are informational. So in fact, I believe, in the top of my head right now, I believe that 7084 is informational, it's not a really standard document, but everybody follows it more or less. And final question, if you want to respond, because I understand that some companies prefer not to say, is your product range typically based on Linux or something else? Okay, so I think there is another mic over there on the table. So if you want to start, Hans, please.
Yes, I do. All right, so let's go do it one after another. So as you know, D-Link is a brand company, and we have, as I mentioned in my presentation, that we have our router, CE router devices selling in the retail market since 2008 with IPv6 ready logo and with IPv6 ready firmware. However, not until 2012, we enable the IPv6 by default. And today, you can see all of our router devices across the world. I believe I'm answering to the number 2 and number 3 altogether. All of the world, as long as there's a D-Link product, you can find a D-Link product, you shall see the IPv6 being enabled by default. And we use the flow from TR 124 in the appendix to make it auto for the users. No matter you are using PBPoE kind of broadband environment or you are a DOCSIS environment goes through DHCPv6, our router can automatically detect your WAN type and have all the provisioning for you. And in addition to that, we also support 6RD and the DSLi, both transition mechanisms along with their DHCP options 212 and 64. The other question goes that, yes, of course, we use Linux as our OS. And regarding to the RFC 7084, actually, I agree that I agree, and I strongly support that RFC 7084B is proposed by jury because today we have RFC 8084, and before that we have 6024. And the reason for that was because we want to have the IPv6 launch, and we want to have the IPv6 launch before 1 year right after the IPv6 day. So in that time frame, I believe that we didn't have all the considerations. We didn't have time to have everything. And after 5 years, it is about time to let us once again think of what do we want, what do we want for the consumer routers. And of course, I think I just want to back up to question number 2, that the features you see in my slide, those are the features we provided today in the retail market. In all the routers you can have from Walmart, from Best Buy, from whatever retail channels. However, for operators, for tender projects, we can always have, we do RFC, we do RFQ and we do RFPs. So if there's any requirement outside of RFC 6084, we are happy with. And of course, since we have DSLi, since we have been doing the net box for like 20 years, of course we do support lightweight DSLi. And of course, since there are open source Linux projects, so we do have 464 LDAC support and that implementation. However, we just didn't have that in the retail market for the consumer users. Thank you.
Okay, in first question, our company could sell products in retail market and service providers. They are our customers. And second, we could buy the different hardware or different firmware in worldwide. And second is some products. We may sell the same products in the same region, but different region or different country may be different firmwares. Okay, and fourth, can implement. Sure, we have a development flow for appending new implementations to all our products. And first, implement. If they have a new implementation about RC 7084, we may implement or may not, I don't know, because it depends on our customer. And but if it is a worldwide trade, we will go on with that.
Or competitors maybe, or your competitors are doing. If your competition is doing, I guess you will do as well. I guess.
Then I guess I have to go first.
They have to. Okay, thank you.
We are focused on the ISPs and the telecom carriers. And because I already mentioned, we have issues. So we need to solve the issue first. So after that, we can provide our retail market CPs. Then actually, the demand is very different. So we need to provide a different model. And yes, then what there's the, yes, we are already providing transition mechanisms, DSLi, MAPI, etc. So we already comply the RFC 7084. Then our OS is like Linux and other OS, special OS also. It depends on the model. That's all.
Okay, so next batch of questions is regarding new transition mechanism support. Right now, most of the products in the market, as you all three mentioned already, include 16.4, 624, and 6RD and DSLite sometimes. Not every vendor is supporting DSLite, but in your case, you all three support that. But I believe that the only one supporting the other mechanism in this slide is actually NAC. I think you mentioned you can also support on request Lightweight 4/6, obviously, because you already implemented NAT, so it's easy. When do you think, in case you are not doing already, you will get available those mechanisms in your platforms? I guess the only one don't need to respond here is Masanobu. New hardware requirements, do you believe that those mechanisms have a real need for more hardware in terms of CPU or flash or RAM? My experience playing with open source, OpenWRT, and so on is that implementing all the actual transition mechanisms and these ones, it's only an extra 12 case. Okay, I understand that that's a very simple implementations and so on, and a very basic graphic user interface, but I want to hear from you if really it's just a matter of just memory, or usually your platforms have enough memory for this upgrade and so on. And some of you already mentioned that basically implementing new things, and never mind is transition mechanism or anything else, it means some extra development cost, testing, other costs, probably going through the IPv6 ready and other programs for certification, I guess so just to confirm that. And in case, for example, one service provider tells you, hey, I want 464 XLAT, what is the minimum order they need to place for you to do that, or you charge a fee or something? I had been in the situation where I was asking for 10,000 routers for the first order only for a customer in Central America, and I could not get that. So finally, we decided to make our own implementation based on OpenWRT, which is ridiculous because I believe that 10,000 routers is a big quantity for an initial order, but it seems that, I don't know if it's a communication problem between the offices in every country and the headquarters, or what is that? Because I remember having with Hans a conversation in one IETF that you didn't receive that request. I don't know. Right now I have 2 customers in US asking me for MAP and 464 XLAT, and they could not find a vendor. So that's a business opportunity for you, actually. Please, Hans.
All right.
Later.
All right.
We will keep the questions for the end, okay? All together.
All right. Let's just make it here as it is recorded, right? So if you have a 10K business, please, give me a call. I will definitely have your transitioning protocols supported, okay? And regarding to those so-called new protocols, actually, we do have our implementation. So I might didn't make it clear. We do have those implementations already, and it is from open source. We made some modification and have them fit in our devices. And we do have. No, we don't. I don't yet have any MAP-T, MAP-E because I don't have any requirement. I didn't have receive any requirement for that. But for the 464 LX and Lightweight DSLite, I do have the implementation. However, what I mentioned was I didn't put them into the firmware. I didn't place them in the firmware in the retail boxes. So in the retail, you get a D-Link device, you didn't get a D-Link router, you don't see those transition in protocols. However, I do have those implementations ready today for your RFP and RFQ, and of course, 10K, I'm okay, totally okay with that.
What is the minimum order for, if you need to do a change? If it's done, I guess it's nothing, but if you need to do a change, if, for example, ask somebody for MAP, which you don't have right now, what it will be the minimum order? I think that's really important.
I don't think it is about the minimum order, because if let's say you have a map T or a map E requirement for I don't know, for the 10K order, I'm more than happy to do that, because from my point of view as a company, actually, to be very honest, I don't see a lot of audience here, so allow me.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah, so allow me. D-Link, actually, we were the very first one jump into IPv6. Part of because since my boss, he allowed me to do all those, but part of reason is because, as I mentioned, I was working into this program since I was a student. And to be very honest, we spent a lot of time, a lot of R&D efforts, and a lot of money on the IPv6 since 2003. And thanks God, I still have a job, and I still sitting here talking to you, because for the past 20 years, we didn't make it. So there's still IPv6 keep growing, right? So I'm willing to do that as long as there's a business driven. I don't care how many units it is in the RFP, but I know there's a reason. I can tell once my salespeople pushing me to do that, it is different. Like, you know, the sales team pushing me to do that, and I'm pushing my management says that I would like to implement this protocol. Protocol is so important. You know, trust me, they listen to sales, they don't listen to me when we go ask for the R&D resource internally. This is, as I believe most company goes this way. So please do, if you have something you want, let me know, and I'm more than happy to do that.
I will make sure from now on.
All right, and of course, as I mentioned, till today, I don't have a very reason that why I should put those protocol into my retail boxes, because it is not about memory, it's not about CPU, it's not about the hardware at all, because we all know that it doesn't really eat a CPU or consume the RAM or storage. It is not about that. It is more about the certification. It is more about whether those protocols are going to benefit the retail users. Because in D-Link, actually, we have broadband devices and we have retail consumer router devices. And we sort of believe that in the retail, you know, it is about the router consumer pure NAT box kind of device instead of, you know, a DOCSIS or DSL WAN kind of device in the retail market, because that belongs to the operators, and the operators can talk to us for the devices they want. So, yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.
If you want to add something, if we are going to repeat, there is no need for that, especially in your case. I am not sure you need to add something here. You have something else to add, or?
Just a little. We already provided MAPI and for commercial, then 464X for trial service.
Yeah.
Then we also have other implementation. So yes, and minimum requirement. We usually say 1,000 every month. That's our minimum requirement. But we can negotiate. Okay. If you are interested, just email me.
I have two customers right now for you. We can talk afterwards. Okay, so next set of questions. I understand that it may be a marketing or commercial question, but why existing CEs? I am not talking about 10 years old CEs. I am talking about maybe just 1 or 2 years old CEs, which probably have enough memory and CPU to have. I'm not telling you about all the transition mechanisms, but for example, having in the website one firmware version to support 464X LAT, just that one, okay? Or just lightweight 4/6, just one, not all of them together, okay? If we agree that probably for not so old models, there are no hardware reasons or something like that. Maybe there is a way for people in the retail market that has those routers, they can pay for a license and upgrade their firmware. I don't know if this is something that you have considered, or I don't know. What is your view in general on what I am saying here?
All right. It is recorded, right? It is not about, it is not a technical problem. It is not a technical question, because as we mentioned, that we all know that it is not about the CPU, it's not about RAM, it's not about hardware at all. However,
but that's the typical excuse for most of the CPU vendors. So that's why I mentioned that.
Yeah, so I'm going to explain the reason in behind. Actually, this is something, something I learned from recently when I work on a product with leading consumer computing company. Well, let's say. What I learned was that actually they care about the user experience a lot, and what I learned from them was that a user who is unhappy with your device, he's unhappy. A user doesn't like your device, he returned it. A user like your device, he keep it. A user doesn't like it, it is not certified, but he is okay with it, he keep it. However, if you are thinking about a firmware upgrade or things like that, you better be careful, because you better make sure your firmware upgrade is 100%, no, not 100%, 200% safe, and you can have the successful rate with a 200% kind of successful rate. Otherwise, don't do that, because you do that, nobody gonna appreciate you. Nobody gonna appreciate, and nobody gonna know, because just nobody gonna know. When you have a Wi-Fi router, you set up the PPPoE, you set up your SSID and the password, and that's it. You put it somewhere under the table, hiding there like for a couple of years. As long as it works, you don't reboot it. It doesn't work, you go power cycle it. You never log into the web UI again. You never have the new configuration. You don't know there's a new feature. And even worse, if I push the firmware, actually I don't have for the retail product. This is about, for the retail product, I don't push the firmware into your device. So no worry about that. I only put the firmware in the server, and it is your choice to have the firmware. Yeah, we will say a new firmware available. It's your choice to upgrade the firmware or not. I'm not going to push it. I'm not going to push your firmware into your device. Okay. No worries. Yeah, for the retail product. For the operator kind of project, of course, if there's a request, we can always have the firmware upgrade. And I cannot speak for the sales team, but I don't think that's gonna cost much for a new firmware, as long as the implementation, as long as the new feature was something existing either from the other project or inside the company. We have that technology, then it should be okay. And of course, for those products, most of the time they have TR69, TR181, so we can push the firmware into your device and upgrade it for you directly by your operators, so that is totally fine. Yep.
Thank you. Anything else?
So there is no problem if the CP is not so old, like 5 years. Yes, just a recent model. It can be easy to upgrade firmware.
So I see basically that the main issue is if you upgrade and there is a power outage in the middle, we have a problem, and so probably the reason it's not being done is more marketing and strategy to avoid people being unhappy with that situation. Okay, not just a technical problem. Okay. Anything else? Okay. So, HomeNet. When do you think it will be available in your CIS? Some of you already mentioned something. Again, same questions. Do you believe it requires new hardware things like more flash, more RAM, or more CPU? I think we have answered already about the development cost for all, so you don't need to go to that one. And again, no need to respond again for the firmware thing, because I think we understand now that the problem is basically the risk of doing that, okay? So what do you think in general about HomeNet? It's coming, it's a matter of 2 years, 5 years, or you really think it will need a replacement of CPEs? Who is taking it?
This is a very good question, Lad. Since 2013, right after 2013, yeah, probably 2013, right after the IPv6 launch, we had a meeting in Boston. No, we have a meeting in Philadelphia talking about to form the HomeNet working group, and in that particular working group, allow me to give the audience a little bit background regarding to home network. So in HomeNet, we are trying to figure out and solve that problems that, for example, we would like to have. Those are some arguments there, because as the first time as a vendor I hear that regarding to the HomeNet, I ask them, really, are we really want to deploy OSPF at home? Really? Even Geek Squad in US, like Geek Squad is like a small SI helping retail consumer people to deploy their home networking kind of company. I don't even think Geek Squad, they know OSPF, they have asked about OSPF. And later on, we talk about Babel, routing protocol and everything. But the real question to me is that actually, you know, the current router, we have a label there that says this is the internet port, this is the WAN port, those four are the LAN port. We even have different color for that. And the coloring was actually defined in the broadband forum, one of the TR actually defined that color, so people know, okay, I have the white, a yellow cable. The yellow cable should be the internet, should be the one to use to connect your internet. Yeah. So all those things matters, because still we don't want users to call our service center, because one phone call may cost up to, I don't know, a couple dollars. And come on, the current C router, it is about the whole profit is about a couple dollars there. So that is the reason why I think everybody, all the vendors are hesitant about the HomeNet. However, in dealing, actually we have been done something secretly. As I know many routers today, they claim they support IPv6, but they only support /64 provisioned from DHCP PD from your operator. However, we support 60, we support 56, we support even 48. And our router, we will reserve two, one for the main network, the one for LAN and Wi-Fi and the main Wi-Fi, and the other one for the guest Wi-Fi, because typically the consumer routers will support guest Wi-Fi in case you have, you know, guest goes to your visit you and you don't want to give in the Wi-Fi access, but you want to have them a separate go to internet and the internet only kind of Wi-Fi access. So we will reserve the device, our router will reserve 264, and we will dedicate the rest of LAN to LAN. So you can have, actually today you can have multiple routers, D-Link routers running IPv6 at home already. The only thing is we don't support dynamic routing protocol today, because we are so afraid that not even user, not talking about a user, even our service center, I don't think our service center representative, they know how to troubleshooting, how to help our customer troubleshooting their dynamic routing kind of home networking. And of course, we don't yet support like HNCP kind of protocol introduced in the the HomeNet. While of course, when I mentioned that in our management, we do support before the Dahong recently recently have Dahong part. We support like D-Link router.local, and D-Link router.local is the access you should use instead of 192, 186, 168, yeah, kind of IP address, and you will do. It will work all the time locally because we support LMNR and the Bonjour in behind. Yep.
Any else?
I have a question first.
Yeah.
Is a HomeNet means a network you use at home and you...
No. HomeNet is the HomeNet protocol. The idea is that you can have the main router and then other routers behind that cascading, and then you can get 1/48 on the top router and then /56 automatically configured, for example, in the other routers. Okay, so it's a HomeNet control protocol.
Currently, we have tried to implement multiple router, but not
Not automatically.
Yeah.
Okay.
In my opinion, we are focused on majority of end users. So, to be honest, it's too early to implement.
Too early?
Too early. Because we need to focus on deploying the simple configuration to end users. Then we need to focus on it. Then after that, we will implement the HomeNet.
I agree that today most of the users have a single router. But I see also many homes that have, instead of 1, 2, and sometimes they don't really know how to do. With IPv6 and HomeNet, that could be automatic. That's the point. In IPv4, sometimes they make double NAT, actually, because they don't know how to configure. So HomeNet could solve that problem.
Correct,
yeah.
Correct.
Security features. Since IPv6 has no NAT, are you already supporting a stateful firewall for IPv6? Is it enabled by default? Because this is probably one of the main concerns from users that really don't understand that NAT is not necessarily security, but today most of the NAT boxes have already a built-in stateful firewall as well, right? Are you considering, or you already have some improvements to avoid your devices becoming part of a botnet, DDoS, or other security issues that you may consider?
I already mentioned in the slide that we support simple security, RFC 1692, and I do believe that we were the first C router vendors that support that particular RFCs. And it is enabled by default, so yeah.
Our C routers support IPv6 firewall and simple security, but I ever asked my boss that, how IPv6 security we should do implement.
It's also enabled by default? The firewall that your router support, it's enabled by default in IPv6 as well?
Yes, it's by default.
Okay.
Yeah. But my boss tell me that we have another product named Zywall. He could defend the DDoS attack, so we don't think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Our IPv6 capable routers already have a stateful firewall for IPv6 by default.
Perfect, thank you. What is the market demand? Somehow we have answered this question a little bit, but if you want to add something else, the question was basically what is the market demand that you are getting in different regions, not just for transition mechanisms, but for HomeNet, or maybe other features that we have not considered up to now in this panel? So I guess the answer basically is you are not getting market demand for the new transition mechanism, maybe in Japan, some. In fact, that's the reason you support that.
As for ISPs, telecom carriers, yes. But
Yes.
For end users, they are not interested
Okay.
in transition technologies.
Of course.
They're interested in Wi-Fi speed And nowadays, parental control for security for kids, children, like that. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I want to add something to HomeNet because recently, if you are following the Wi-Fi market as since 11AC, L2.11AC, a router was like, less than $100, like $79.99 USD. Suddenly, overnight, becomes something like $250, $300 in the retail market. Yep. And now the Wi-Fi, the industry is talking about mesh. A Wi-Fi mesh, though we know that it's not a true Wi-Fi mesh. However, people starting deploy it because we transition from 2.4 gig to 5 gig, and after that we go to 11N to 11AC, and with 11AC the modulation goes high, and in terms that the distance goes shorter, so you have to deploy to cover the same environment. You have to deploy if you want to keep that modulation and enjoy that high speed from the 11AC. Then you have to deploy multiple devices, and the devices will turn itself from a router to a bridge by disabling the NAT automatically. And in the Wi-Fi industry, we call it like a self-organized network or Wi-Fi mesh. Yeah, and I think that is a good opportunity for us to gradually introduce the HomeNet into that, because that's gonna have a big problem to that as long as you have more and more Wi-Fi bridges at home, Wi-Fi extender repeaters kind of devices, then you are actually creating a bigger and a bigger broadcast domain, and we certainly doesn't want that. Yeah, especially in Wi-Fi, one broadcast may drag you down from like your negotiation, your speed negotiation goes to like 11AC, like 1 gig. Suddenly it goes to 1 meg. Yep. Yeah, as it goes the broadcast basic rate, you have to make sure everybody receive that. Yeah, so I think that is a problem, and I think that's gonna be a very good opportunity for we to introduce and keep HomeNet moving. However, I still think the problem is that just like you deploy a double net, the problem is more about discovery. How can you have let's say you have a printer, under a particular router, how can you discover that from another router? I think that is a problem today, and today we know they support Bonjour, however, they doesn't support Bonjour over WAN, and so I think that is something not only from the CE router vendors, we have to do something, but also from those vendors for the host.
Yeah, I just realized something that we don't have time to discuss, but may be interesting in probably very short time, having the CE supporting also EOT interfaces like Zigbee or maybe others, because definitively that's going to happen. So maybe through an external USB converter or whatever we call it, but maybe we can see in the next generation of CEs, not just including HomeNet and solving the problems that you just mentioned about discovering devices, which is an IETF problem, basically, but also supporting integrated EOT in the home, right? So that's something that we need to consider. And actually, that brings me to what I think it's the last slide. What do you think we are missing from IETF? Maybe from this session, we can give some ideas or even sit down together and draft something. Why not?
As I mentioned, there is a similar mechanism, RFC 8026, but the RFC cannot cover all the transition mechanisms, such as 464 XRAT and MAP-E, MAP-T, other functions also. So, and especially in Japan, some ISPs cannot use DCP-V6 option, so we need to consider something different.
Yeah. I took a look about 1 year ago, about 86, I think is the number. And I think even if actually it's not write down 464 XLAT, it can work without needing a modification, but we can think about that. Anything else?
Yeah. So we just...
Yeah, if we have, I think we had at least one participant with a question. I think we have 5 minutes because we started 5 minutes later, so it should be okay.
Sunny here from Telstra. Look, one of the things that we're trying to do is do a hybrid CPE, where we have a fixed component and a backup using mobile. Which of these protocols or transition mechanisms do you guys recommend for a hybrid CPE device? We're looking at all the options at the moment, and the only logical one that we can possibly come up with that would simplify the process is 464 XLAT, but it's not widely available. So how do you handle a hybrid CPE device?
I don't have experience handling that, to be very honest. But in my understanding, that is we have another BU working on the mobile hybrid kind of devices. While personally, I'm working with a couple gentlemen on the single IP kind of proposal in IETF. While we all know that less than TCP/4 the upper layer. However, for the IP layer, yes, I think 464 LAX probably is the only solution we have right now, in my understanding. I don't know if Jordi have the other ideas, but yeah.
One more reason to support 464 XLAT, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I think I have did some testing on that, and most of the CPEs today support a USB with 3G interface, and I have tested that, and in general it works. And also in HomeNet, that's one of the questions that is being trying to sort out. George?
George from APNIC. I just wanted to say thank you for coming and sharing your thoughts on this. I make a point of always recommending CPE that have 6 support, even for people whose ISP don't have 6, because one day they will. And I have used at least one of your products. I won't say which, no favoritism, but it was really very enjoyable to be able to take a device which could support native dual stack and have it just work. It's a similar point to Sunny's. I actually think that you might want to make sure you don't artificially discriminate between 3 and 4G backhaul, cable, fiber, and constrain the behavior. I've got mobile MiFi devices that won't do prefix delegation, but they get a 6 address as an endpoint, and that's really irritating. You want a MiFi that is designed to share things, to share V6 prefix delegation, and it can't. So those kind of opportunistic moments where a CPE could have done it and it didn't do it, not that any of you guys would do that, but please don't artificially constrain where the 6 is in the device. But thank you so much for coming and talking.
Thank you very much. Any final words from the panel or anyone else? So again, thank you all for staying, and special thanks to the participants of the panel. I was trying to get maybe 1 or 2 additional vendors, but I think it has been very, very convenient to have you here. Paul?
Paul Wilson, head of APNIC. I just wanted to say thanks to you again as well for being here. Apologies for the small audience. This is one of the BoF slots, and you see it's the end of the day. Buses have started departing for the social, and the last bus is departing at 7.
20 minutes from now. It's enough.
I really do hope you'll join us at the social. It should be a good night, and thanks again. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.